Welcome back everybody to another episode of our weekly Moto News Roundup, where this time around we've got a new bike from Harley, the latest on Honda's V3, and some new spy shots of KTM's latest middleweight adventure bike. Then there's the latest financial results from BAJAJ, a special Royal Enfield goes on sale, there's a bit of a refresh for the Busa, along with updates from KOVE, ZXMOTO and Honda, and we'll round off with our regular slots of comment, ride and custom of the week. But before we get started, a massive thanks to Break Free for supporting the channel and sponsoring our news coverage. And if you've ever been at all curious about this excellent safety product, then of course there are links down in the description below. But for our first story today, let's take a look at that new bike from Harley, the Deadwood, which we knew was in the works because they registered that name a month or two back. But the full details are here now, and essentially what we've got is a stripped back version of their Heritage Classic, but with a bit more of a mean aesthetic owing to the fact they've given it this moody finish. Like the Heritage Classic though, you've got the 117 cubic inch version of their M8 V-twin with just shy of 100 horses peak and a more substantial peak torque figure of 120 pounds-feet or 160 newton meters. Then the windscreen is a sort of cut down version of the one from the Heritage Classic. It's got the same triple headlight setup as well. And then also shared, you've got the toolbars, the tank shape, the mud guards, and also the spoke wheels. I will say though, perhaps cutting back on the chrome and the extra finish and all that stuff has had a couple of positive effects. One would be the weight, which comes in 15 kilograms lighter than the Heritage Classic at 311, although to be fair, still a pretty heavy bike. But the other one is the price. It comes in $2,000 cheaper at £17,999. Unfortunately, this one is US and Canada only at the moment, but all the same, I can still appreciate a nice looking bike when I see one. Next up though, we've got the latest on Honda's V3 project, with the latest design filings showing what looks like the finished road-going version, so perhaps this one's going to be announced at some point later this year. The big deal with it, of course, is the fact that it gets an e-compressor, so forced induction is basically like an electric supercharger, but also it's a V3, which is, you know, super unusual as well, and they say combined it's a 900cc, but it's also able to make power figures that are more comparable, let's say, with a 1200. Now these design filings are just fairly basic CAD drawings, so they're not fully rendered, there's no colour for example, but I will say maybe they do give us a bit of a better idea of what the production version is going to look like than the prototype which we saw at EICMA in Milan in November, which was very much painted in this kind of camouflage finish which masked the lines a little bit. I think one of the defining features that becomes more obvious is the asymmetry around the tank. You've got the airbox and filter on one side, a smaller cooling intake for the ECU on the other, with both normally being tucked away under the tank, but they've had to be relocated because that's where they've put the e-compressor. Also, up front you can see a couple of deflectors either side of the Y-shaped headlight, so maybe they're there to push a little bit of air around the forks into the intakes at either side. But the other big visual difference versus the prototype is the addition of all the necessary homologation stuff, so indicators, the license plate holder, the mirrors as well. And look, production bikes always look a bit less sexy, a bit less exciting than the prototypes or concept bikes, but I will say I do think they've done a pretty decent job with this one because they've kept some of the more distinctive design features like the headlight, like the asymmetrical tank, the wavy discs, the triple exit exhaust as well, which is a nice touch, and also that single-sided swing arm, which really does look rather nice. So I think it'll be a good looking bike in the flesh, obviously very modern, but I still think quite cool. You might even say a little bit daring as well for Honda, but I think really what we all want to know is just how it's going to feel out on the road with a V3 and also an e-compressor. I think it's going to be a really exciting, interesting ride. Another bike though that we can perhaps expect at EICMA this year is a refresh to KTM's middleweight 790 Adventure. This one surfaced on ADV Pulse this week with an interesting change actually that I'm personally not quite sure is the right direction. Now, from the looks of the pictures, it seems like the engine, the frame, the suspension are all going to stay relatively the same, or there might be minor tweaks. There is new new break-in from WP, there's a new look to the front end as well. But the big one is the fact that they've changed the fuel tank, which is a more conventional looking design than the previous generation 790 Adventure. With KTM's, you see it's a signature feature of their Adventure lineup to have the fuel tank hanging really low at either side of the bike. And so not only does it give you plenty of capacity at 20 litres, but also helps to keep the centre of mass on the bike really quite low, and so that makes them very, very easy to get on with, even at low speeds and off-road as well. This one though, it doesn't extend down quite as far, so either there's less fuel than that current 20 litres, or they've just decided to lift it up a little bit higher. But I'd love to know your take on this one, especially if you've either owned one or at least ridden one, as to why you think they might have done that, because personally it doesn't really make sense to me. But also, would it put you off buying one if it didn't have that signature feature? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Now, a quick reminder that our summer Adventure giveaway is still live, where you can win a ridiculously good package of accessories and tech to fit to your very own bike. The centerpiece is the CHIGEE AIO-6 system, which combines a secondary display for your bike that features CarPlay and Android Auto, with some other brilliant features like their dash cams, TPMS if you fit the sensors, OBD reading, and also some security features like geofencing. We're also throwing in their SR1 radar system, which is going to give you rear collision warnings, blind spot warnings as well. And then also a top of the line Packtalk Pro from Cardo, so you can take calls and listen to music with it all hooked up to that CHIGEE system. Moto, the brilliant motorcycle navigation app which seeks out the best twisty roads on your route, is also CarPlay and Android Auto compatible, so we've got a lifetime membership for that as well, so you can use all their features for free. And then to hook it all up to your bike, HEX INNOVATE are throwing in one of their ezCAN accessory managers, which will either be bike specific, or they've got their universal ezCAN which can fit pretty much any bike. So like I say, it's a mega prize, so do check out the link down below to find out how to enter. But also we've secured a discount code for CHIGEE, which will run to the end of the giveaway. And so if you're unlucky enough not to win, then you can still pick one up with a pretty flipping good discount. A massive thanks again to all our partners for the help with this one. And with that, on to the next story. So following on from the spy shots from KTM, well, it looks like they're on a decent trajectory to recovery, with their new owners BAJAJ publishing their Q2 results this week. Versus 2025 at this time, revenue is up by 80% for the BAJAJ group at €370 million. And so how do you make more money? Well, of course, you do it largely by selling more bikes. In Q2 alone, they sold 48,672 bikes across KTM, Husky and Gas, which in itself is 71% up versus Q2 2025. So it looks like the steady hand of BAJAJ is consistently taking effect in a positive way after a financially and reputationally disastrous period for KTM, and I think we can all agree that's very much a good thing. Over to Royal Enfield now though, and their Rough Crafts special edition of their Shotgun 650 is now available to pre-order, with pricing revealed too. I bet they've probably already sold out though, because there are just 100 going to be made. But myself and Tim saw this one at Motorcycle Live in the UK at the back end of last year, and I've got to say it's a really nice job they've done of making something that just looks that little bit more special. Unfortunately though, as if 100 units wasn't already scarce enough, well, they'll be split evenly across 4 markets, so 25 each for India, Europe, North America and Asia Pacific. And so I think the chances of getting hold of one are going to be really quite slim. In the UK though, the price does come in at 8,150, so between £1,000 and 1,500 quid more than the standard bike. And I think that's decent value for a limited run bike, especially if you put it in the context of your Triumph specials or certainly Ducatis. Especially for one that looks, as good as this. Also from Enfield, it looks as though their first electric, the Flying FLEA, has started to roll off the production line in India, with the first few starting to be delivered to customers. That should mean the global rollout should start sometime soon as well. No firm dates as of yet. But yeah, the initial launch will focus on the C6, which is a little more road focused and retro looking. But the one I'm really looking forward to is the Scramblery S6, but I believe that one will come out once the C6 has been fully launched, so maybe a little bit further down the line. Now, like BAJAJ, Enfield's results came out pretty recently. They also look pretty good too, with Visor Down reporting this week that they're 27% up year over year, with their smaller 350 singles selling particularly well. Perhaps this new electric lineup though can add another string to their commercial bow, especially when it comes to city riders, where I think this bike is going to excel. Meanwhile, motorcycle.com report that Suzuki have just announced their new Hayabusa colors for the US market for 2027, with the black, of course, a deep blue too. But for an extra few $100s, there's a new special edition in pearl brilliant white, metallic Urt grey, and some red accents, and also some red wheels too. You also get the seat cowl thrown in, black exhaust caps as well, and some special edition logos to finish things off nicely. And so it looks very nice indeed, although no substantial technical changes to speak of. Chinese brand KOVE don't seem to have been on the market in the UK all that long, but already two of their key models, the 800X Adventure Bike and the 450R Naked, look set to get an update according to these recent design filings. Now, the 800X stays technically, I would say, unchanged, but it seems like a bit of a styling tweak to make it a little bit more safe, with the very distinctive twin headlights of the previous generation making way for something a touch more traditional. So yeah, maybe an attempt to reposition it as something a little more mainstream and perhaps a little less weird. Same in fact for this 450R, so new side panels, but also a new, more conventional again front end, with them ditching those eye-like twin projectors, which definitely stood out as a KOVE, but yeah, maybe wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea. I'd love to know from you in the comments below though, would you be more likely to consider one of those new designs, or has it taken away a little bit of their edge? Meanwhile, former KOVE CEO's new brand, ZXMOTO, doing particularly well, as I mentioned recently, in World Supersport with their 820RR. Well, they're also set to move into the cruiser market with this new 600V. It's just been type approved and also recently launched in China, although the appearance does seem to have changed quite a bit since they first showed a prototype at EICMA in 2025. Instead of more round and curvy, it has become quite a bit more angular, but it also sounds like it could make for a decent ride with a 60-ish horsepower V-twin, but also a curb weight of 195 kilograms, which is definitely on the light side, certainly by cruiser market standards. I think though one of the bikes I'm most looking forward to riding at some point, hopefully in the near future, would be the new Super 4 from Honda. It's going to come as a semi-retro naked bike, which I think looks the absolute business, but also as a fared sports bike to go toe-to-toe with the likes of Kawasaki's ZX4R. 500cc with an inline 4, I'd fully expect to have to give it plenty of revs, but in my opinion, it should add to the charm a little bit and also give it a point of difference versus the C, a fairly boring parallel twins that you get at this sort of capacity. Now, it is built in China, so you'll remember if you watch the show regularly that that's where it launched first. But this week, the Japanese version has just been confirmed, with bikes arriving in dealers in the next month or two. There is bad news though for Japan, because license and tax laws mean that bikes over 400cc are much more expensive to own, and so they've actually made this a 400 version that gets about 10 horsepower less, or 14 horsepower less should I say, at 58 horses peak as opposed to the 72 of the Chinese 500 version. Now, there's no word on whether it'll come to the UK yet, with MCM reporting that Honda's spokesperson has refused to comment, but one would hope and imagine that if it does come to the UK, it would be that 500, and so another one to keep your eyes peeled for at the back end of this year. Anyway, time for our regular slot of Comment of the Week, where I choose one from the last episode, and then at the end of the month, I pick my overall favourite to win a break-free unit of your choice. Now, in that last episode, I was looking at some of the new paint jobs from Triumph, with the Speed Triple actually looking particularly snazzy for the new model year. But Sig Pop Art commented, "The Speed Triple looks the dogs, But why oh why did they use a dual-lit toaster as a silencer? Very specific, I'd say, on the brand of toaster there. But now you say it, that is so accurate that it's something that I don't think I can unsee. So thanks for that. My inbox though has been popping off this week with submissions for Ride of the Week, which I'm loving. So thank you so much to everyone who sends them in. If I don't pick you this week, honestly, most of them are great. So I've just been keeping a big list in case I get a quiet week so I can revisit some. So don't lose hope if I don't include you this time. But I've gone with 2 because I've got so many at the moment. So this time I had to go with Sean Ewing's Honda Nova-RS 125. A brilliant paint job on this bike. Very unusual looking overall too, but of course with a 125 two-stroke that I bet sounds absolutely mint. He says California plated, motor built by the late Harry Okuda, and you need to hear it and smell it. Then I've also picked Hugh Wayman Wood's 1979 CB350 custom build, which is such a nice looking bike to start with, but I think it did need a bit of TLC, but I think it does look even better in this cafe racer build, so very well done on that one. Hugh hails from Canada, so we've had one from California, one from Canada as well. I love getting all these bikes from all over the world, and so if you do want to send yours in, then do shoot it over to enquiries@motobob.cc, and I'll try and get as many of them in as possible. Last up though, we've got Custom of the Week with this stunning KZ900, a Kawasaki that I spotted this week over on Pipeburn, built by AC Sanctuary. Upgrades include OZ wheels, Brembo brakes, Olin suspension, along with a 180 section rear tyre that they say required quite a bit of chassis modification to get it in there. A true beauty of a motorcycle. I think maybe it looks like a more authentic version of modern day Z900 RS Retro. And having just got back from the Honda CB1000F launch, well, I think I probably had a bit of influence there in picking this one with just a general appreciation for that sort of UJM style. Review, by the way, for that one coming very soon next week, so do keep your eyes peeled if you're interested. And I will say it is a more interesting bike than I thought when I set off for the launch. As always though, I'd love to know what you think of this week's story, so do let me know down in the comments below. And also, as always, I'll put a playlist on the screen of last week's videos in case you missed them. There's a full, in-depth, detailed look at the new TFC Speed Twin from Triumph, and also a review of the latest Honda Transalp with their e-clutch fitted as standard. Do hit subscribe for more of the latest motorcycle news and reviews like this right here on MOTOBOB. A massive thanks for watching today, and we'll see you in the next video.